Hey, hello, and welcome to this another episode of the Frontend Coffee Break. Sorry, but the Frontend Coffee Break episode 36. It's the podcast where we take a break from our everyday lives, grab a cup of Joe, and just discuss different front-end topics. And today, as always, per usual, we have Ricard. Don Ricard, hello.
Chucha. How is the week going?
The week is going okay, and I'm like usual. I'm having my decaf, my afternoon decaf.
You keep saying decaf. You keep saying no spiked coffee or anything else in there, but we don't know. We just don't know.
Oh no, we don't, and we'll never know. No, as they say. If you want to drink anything, you just put it in a cup of coffee. You make sure that it's not visible, whatever is inside, and then you can drink whatever you want. Water, if you want to go with water, and you're afraid of people judging you because of you're the guy or the person.
Water in a coffee break.
Nah,
that doesn't make sense.
Coffee in a coffee. Yeah, it does not make sense. It's coffee in the coffee break. Anyhow, sorry. So today's episode, we're gonna talk about a topic that, in a way, it's related to a lot of the things that we have been seeing during the last couple of years throughout different episodes that we've discussed. And it's basically the topic about how to keep up to date, and not in a matter of when you do it. We'll touch a little bit about that. But in general terms, how do you keep up to date regarding your front-end knowledge? You know, a little bit of what are the things that the idea is to share a little bit about what we do to keep up to date, to give a little bit of tips of the different options that you might have, maybe discuss a little bit about what you do. So that's our episode. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye. No, I'm kidding. So, front-end, as you know, it's one of the things that we discuss with team members of the projects that we're in, the backenders specifically, is how usually the backend stays very much the same, at least the way that we work it. It does evolve, but it evolves much more slowly versus the front end, which is very dynamic. I don't know how you feel about how the front end is moving along. What is your impression regarding front end technology? Let's say since COVID, let's say in the last 4 years, how you feel front end has changed? Do you have any particular?
I am not prepared for the question, but I will try my best. I think we're in a good state. I like a lot when they do this. I think it's called interloop, where Safari, Chrome, Firefox they meet together and they say, okay, what are we going to work on this year? What's going to make like the baseline for this year in the browsers? And they add whatever it is. Like they make the default for something new, like view transitions or something that you can use then across all browsers. That is fantastic. Something that they've done recently in the past few years. But overall, it's very stable. I mean, stable. I mean, robust or powerful. Not stable in the sense that there's no frameworks every week, but it's stable in the sense that you can use like robust HTML to make it semantic. You have a lot of CSS power nowadays. JavaScript, whatever, man. It's unlimited power with JavaScript. So really, you have many tools at the disposal to work on your problems, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun because it changes, right?
It does. It feels like there's a new framework, a new important framework, because frameworks, as you said, it seems that there's a new framework every other week. This is, of course, an exaggeration, but it does. You get to know, or you get to hear about a new framework, or a new library constantly. Like a couple, at least each year, you listen to that there's a new framework. But big frameworks, they're still just appearing slowly. You started, at least I remember, after jQuery, which is, well, not a framework but a library, but jQuery, like when we got that, it felt that it was quite stable regarding this. But then came Angular, React, Vue, Svelte, and then we have Quick, and then we have this and that. We have a lot of frameworks that have been appearing the last few years, and then we have frameworks that are built upon these frameworks. So suddenly it's like you turn yourself around and suddenly, whoop, there's a new framework there around the corner.
But is it good or bad? I don't know. Like, in a way, I think it's good to have people that want to challenge the status quo and say, hey, I don't like how things are done right now. Let's try to find a better way or a more optimized way. So this is nice, people that want to do that. But at the same time, if you are a person that don't want to invest that time in learning into keeping up to date, topic for today, you will have a hard time in front end because, again, constantly, maybe you start a new project and then there's a new version of React which has breaking changes. You haven't read the breaking changes and now you don't know how to do it. And the same for new frameworks, new tools, Astro, server-side rendering, front-end rendering, just so many things nowadays.
I feel that the biggest change that has come in the front-end community in the last many years, I'm not going to say the last 4 years in particular, but when I try to think about what are the big major changes, I think one of the things that have advanced the most is CSS. We've seen a lot of things that suddenly appear that can be done now via CSS that couldn't be done before. And it's always interesting to see all these things coming up. And a lot of them I don't end up using because you see there's just more and more and more. It's like, but from time to time, there is a few things that you say, this is going to be something that I can actually apply into my project. Has, for example, that is a major game changer. The existence of has definitely changed the way that I do CSS, and I think a lot of us does. Now, what are the benefits for investigating or investing time in staying up to date? What would you say the benefits are?
I mean, one, yourself, you have to grow, right? Your profile has to grow in your career because you will need it. I think if you are like hardcore, maybe Java developer or Python developer, maybe it's more stable and it's fine. But I don't envision or I don't see the front end being the same in 5-10 years, right? If you're stuck, still doing jQuery, when you go to a new project, new clients now demand new frameworks, demand new ways of working, more performant ways, whatever, right? You will not be ready. Or if you just change companies, you go through the recruitment processes and interviews, they will ask you about the new stuff. You're not there, and then maybe you get, out of job or out of work. So
the funny thing is that sometimes, I think that sometimes recruiting takes this a little bit too far. Like, wasn't the inventor of Angular that applied to a job that he couldn't even apply to because they asked more experience than he actually had, and he had created Angular
mistakes
itself.
Everywhere. Sure.
Like 5 years in Angular. I just created it 3 years ago. What are you talking about 5 years?
Definitely. But there are things like, if you don't keep up, let's say, Core Web Vitals from Google, right? And they're so very important nowadays to power your site, to make it more faster and more performant. And then in return, you get better SEO ranking. If you're not up to date with that, then your clients will not, rank correctly or whatever it is. So it really pays back to learn new stuff, I think.
So we have the potential of the benefit if you're looking for a job, if you're moving around, if you haven't still settled down, it is definitely something that you need to know to have better job opportunities. If you're looking to apply for a job, definitely the more up-to-date that you are, that doesn't mean that you have to know the bleeding edge, but the more up-to-date you are regarding things, the more opportunities that you have. And sometimes it's horrible because in the sense that you see a CV and you see, okay, so I have to know React, Angular, Vue. I have to know all these frameworks to actually be able to apply to the jobs. And it's like, not necessarily, but you do need to know that they exist. You do need to read a little bit upon them. If you can investigate, work a little bit just to try them out, that would be good. But you need to know that they exist to maybe have an opinion regarding them, because in the end, there's a lot of things that you can learn there. Now, you mentioned, for example, also the Google, the Core Web Vitals that changed 2 years ago, 1 year ago, that they changed the what they were
interaction and
scores
or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep up to date because the more up to date you are, the more efficient solutions you're going to deliver, because you're going to be using first of all, you're going to be able to deliver precisely more performant pages because you'll know what they're ranking. In theory, that is because that's the best way to have a performant page. But also, for example, if you're using the latest JavaScript that is widely supported by all browsers, whatever you have built will be improved. One thing that I can immediately think of is how lazy loading changed in the last, 5 years, 7 years? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Suddenly, But suddenly we had a library, for example, on lazy loading, which was fantastic. And then suddenly it's like, oh no, you just put lazy, and that's it. So it is very important you have better job opportunities, and you also deliver more efficient solutions, whether it's JavaScript or CSS. It pays off to be up to date. But then again, there's problems if you're not staying up to date. What would be the pitfalls, you say, of not staying up to date?
I don't know. I guess you spend more time with, like, if you're up to date, maybe you can do things faster, right? Which means you can dedicate your time to do something else. Like before you, again, example for lazy loading, if you don't know that there's now an attribute in HTML you can add to images to lazy load them natively with a browser, you will start implementing maybe your own way with intersection observers or a library, and then you spend, I don't know how many hours when it could have been just one attribute in the HTML. So time well spent, definitely. What do you think it's a pitfall for not being up to date?
Well, definitely, I guess the biggest pitfall is this, that you are trying to reinvent the wheel when they have already created tools that will help you do it. Why we built, I remember that during years and years and years, I had to create my own libraries, my own utility files, JavaScript scripts, and all these kind of things. And then suddenly things start appearing, and just knowing that for example, the typical thing, the date, having before it was supported natively, and the date, I remember that it was something that you had to build from scratch, or you had to look for libraries and such. And if you're up to date on how things are working, you definitely can deliver better solutions. And if you are not up to date, you're going to waste your time. Don't try to reinvent the wheels. Anyhow, let's talk a little bit about the type of resources that are available on when to or where to learn. Where you can keep yourself up to date.
I know you're going to say books.
Yes, that would be for me. It's very nowadays. You can say that it's very old school, but I think that although books, I have the feeling that it's one of the less used things to keep up to date. They're still quite relevant. Maybe they won't have the bleeding edge. Maybe they won't have the most recent stuff. But usually, the nice thing about books is that they concentrate on a very specific topic and they go deep on that. And nowadays, when you're looking for articles, when you're looking for things to learn, when you're looking for, even for videos, they have their own pitfalls regarding on those media. But the book is something that, yes, it can become obsolete, but if that book is really good, the knowledge that you learn from that book is quite solid. Like, for example, there's a book that I always recommend, the JavaScript Ninja, which is a very interesting book to learn solid JavaScript, how to do really good JavaScript, and it teaches the basics. And I think it's a really good read, and you get the entire, let's say, class that you would get in
is
that
it
one
like
book.
A physical book or e-book?
Well, it is when you buy. I think that when you buy it,
Right.
you get both. You get a electronic book and the physical book. I am more into physical books.
I'm saying this because I've seen in the past where you buy maybe an ebook, they give you like updates. You get I don't know what I bought back in the day, and then they would email you and say, "Hey, we've published a new version. You can now get it for free or something, right? Or for a small discount." So that's easier. But I get the point that with the front end, if it's not the super basic or core knowledge, it's very easy to get out of it. I mean, imagine that you do an Angular 1 book, right? I mean, come on. I mean, then we do Angular 2 or whatever, and they change everything. All the APIs are different, and it's useless. It's just to hold the door. So, yeah.
Definitely, there's topics that are not, especially in the front end, that are not book worthy, even with the updates. But there are still some things that are more universal, that I think that are more stable, that books are worth using for.
Yeah, probably programming. Yeah.
What else?
Newsletters, right? I don't know in this day and age if the young kids use newsletters. I do. I have 2 subscriptions, free, of course. One would be the CSS Weekly, and the other is JavaScript Weekly. You get a weekly digest with links to nice articles or release. In specifically for the JavaScript one, they also give you like releases. Oh, there's a new TypeScript version, or there's a new NPM version or whatever. So you get one snapshot fast on Monday or Friday. And it's nice. It's very, you scan it in 3 minutes, and if you're interested, you click there, or if not, just archive it. So yeah.
I usually also have I have a couple of newsletters, the same ones as you, subscriptions, and I tend to read them not at home, not at work, but usually when I'm moving around, especially if I'm going to work. It's one of the things that I tend to read. And the nice thing, as you say, is that they're not there to give you in-depth information, but they're just to keep you up to date. That's why it's a newsletter. And I think you don't need a lot of time. It is not something that it's constantly every day appearing, but it is something that it's constant, that will give you updates regarding on what has happened in the last couple of weeks. So it is a really interesting source of information. I would recommend that as well. And it doesn't take time to configure it and to go through it.
Next, what else is there?
The next one, okay, we have, for example, conferences, which we talked about in episode 34. This is something that's also a way to keep up to date. You can go back and listen to that. And of course, going to conferences, it's more about, in the end, more about interaction, more about networking, but still, they can give you a little bit of information. You don't have to attend to them, for example. The difference between, in this case, is that conferences do put out sometimes good new information. It's worth going to see, for example, the videos to see what they are saying.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know. Conferences, in terms of watching, usually it's a little bit like cutting edge, right? The new stuff. You don't see usually conferences like, okay, let's talk on cons, let, and variables, scopings. It's probably like new stuff, which is also interesting, right? You have to know the latest to know, okay, maybe in 6 months I'll be able to apply it in the project. So yeah, it's good. I don't know, do you have any conferences in mind that you would think of?
There's the one that they share in the Slack channel that we have at Cognitive and Eccentric is the Google I/O conferences. Usually this is worth taking a look, or at least reading the summary in a newsletter somewhere. But it is worth taking a look at those conferences. If you can attend, it will be interesting to take a look at what's going to be informed, and then just go to the conferences, to the keynotes, or just
I think they have a bunch of like a thought of product like showcasing, but they have tracks for development. Like they show you the latest in the dev tools for Chrome, or the latest in whatever implementation they do in Chrome. So it's interesting. Nice recommendation. How else? I mean, you already mentioned articles, blogs, which reminds us of episode number 1 of this podcast. Why is it important to have a blog? So go listen to it, watch it. I like blogs and articles because they're very easy to update, right? When you send a newsletter, when you record a tutorial, or you do like a conference, whatever, it's very hard to correct yourself or improve upon what you've shared. But in contrast, if you just write an article and then, I don't know, a week later you realize, oh, I made a mistake, or no, maybe something new came up, you can just go into the article, edit it, and you're live in 5 minutes. So I love that, and I love when authors do that, when they go back to their articles and update it, because otherwise you get, you always want to see, you go to the, Flex guideline, last update 2019, like, maybe it's not the best up-to-date guide on Flexbox, but yeah, articles are nice.
I used to read my favorite book when I started working in doing a bit of front-end 18 years ago was A List Apart. Right now, it is not the best page that I know that is out there, but it was a very interesting page that every single day I was going in to see if there were new articles, but it was something that I was constantly reading. During the first 15 minutes of my day, the first things that I did, 15 or 30 minutes, was read emails, go through messages, anything that I can, prepare the day for the day, and read articles. That was the first thing that I did. And this is something related to what we talked about in finding time during work to do stuff, among them be up to date in episode 21. This is, for me, that was my routine when I started. Every single day there, sitting, reading through the list apart. It was amazing. It was an amazing site that has a lot of articles. It is still great, but it's not the kind of articles that I enjoy anymore. It became more, but I think that they're more design oriented. But for example, the first time that responsive, if I'm not mistaken, the first responsive article that came out, the one regarding on how to work with the responsive web, came in a list apart. That's where it came from. I still remember some of the images. I think there were like 4 columns and then they became 2, and they talked about responsive design. That's where it came. I mean, nobody was working with it as far as I know, or well, people might have been working with it, but it was not something that was popular. Right now, we don't even talk about it because we assume that everybody's working with responsive design, or responsive in a responsive way. So that would be, for example, my favorite page. Used to be my favorite page, and there's still a few that I visit, but mostly I read articles that are shared in the Slack channel through our colleagues at Cognizant Centric.
Yeah, Slack would be like maybe social media, because I don't think we've mentioned yet. Social media is also a nice. I mean, surely social media is like maybe a source for Instagram Reels or articles or newsletters or videos, but it's a way to get curated stuff, right? If you follow certain interesting people, they will share stuff and then you get it. Because sometimes it's like, okay, like you said, okay, you were following a list apart, but how do you know these sites? How do you discover more things? So maybe, again, microblogging and social media is the way to discover.
Twitter, for example, or now known as X, it is something, it is in a way sort of like a news, well, you could be seen in a way as a newsletter, but it is an interesting place, or these kind of sites that if you follow the correct people, they are going to be sharing those are people that are working with the bleeding edge. Those are people that are working with the latest and the greatest. If you follow key people, you're going to get a lot of updates to just small snippets of what they're doing, small previews of what's coming up next, links to articles that they themselves have written. I remember maybe it was in the internal podcast, what I think that we've talked about this. I'm sure that we talked about people following.
Yeah, we mentioned before, for sure. Twitter, and for those that don't know, like X, go to Mastodon or the Fediverse. Sorry, I had to plug it.
Well, it's Blue Sky, I think it's from the creators of Twitter.
It's still like centralized. Go to decentralized social networks, guys. Okay, sorry. Young people, Twitch. Do we learn from Twitch?
I think that this is something that we've also discussed. I don't remember in which episode, maybe in the internal podcast. But Twitch is fastly becoming a place to learn, especially when I've tried to follow a couple of people. The thing is that you have to know when they are going to go live, and it's super nice because it's an interactive way of learning. It is not just like a video where they say, okay, today we're going to do a movie website, and I'm going to use the basics, and we need the database. I'm going to create a database, and you can go and see a tutorial, but that's it. The advantage, we can talk about the video tutorials, it will be that you double the speed or something. But in Twitch, it's live interaction. If you watch it live, you can see the person there coding, and you can actually ask questions. Hey, why did you do it like this? Wouldn't this be better? And sometimes they will answer and interact with the people. So it's an interesting way of learning.
But who has time? I mean, who has time to go? No, really. I mean, who has time on maybe...
Yes.
I mean, okay, if you're doing it off work, but if you're doing work, like to spend, I don't know, an hour, 2, 3 on that stream to ask questions. And then it goes, as you said, at 1x if you watch it live rather than 2x if you watch it on demand. I don't know. It's not for me. It's not for me.
I've tried it a little bit, but not, once again, myself, I'm not also a Twitch fan. I know that it's an interesting way, especially for those that are starting to learn, maybe those that still are in school, in college, that have a little bit more time. That would be maybe the target audience for that you can go and sort of like a teacher or someone, an expert, and then just follow them through and ask questions. Now, we have the other side of videos like this, like YouTube in tutorials. And I think that the biggest advantage is that you can watch them 2x. But what's your opinion regarding video tutorials?
For me, it's still too slow. I mean, I don't know. I love like the let's say written form or paper, if you want to call it, just articles, because it allows me to scroll fast, right? I mean, if maybe I know a little bit of the topic and they start doing, okay, let's do npm install. Okay, let's do whatever. And I'm like, I can skip through these parts, right? Surely you can fast forward on the videos if they have timestamps or links in the description. But honestly, I mean, I like articles. I like to copy and paste code as well, because on the videos you cannot do that unless maybe they have links to the GitHub repository with samples. It's not easy for me. It's just an article with snippets of code, copy paste. You try it in your code pen or your project. It's way faster for me to consume content that way. Do you like YouTube tutorials videos?
I followed, for example, some sites like Code Academy or Udemy, where they post lessons, and they're in the end they're videos, and I end up doing what you say, moving forward, backward, trying to find the pieces of code going, and it does take time. But I think they're important to have because, and this is something that I learned at the end of my college years, is that people have different ways of learning throughout life. Even different people learn in different ways. There's people that are going to be very visual, people that are not going to be visual, people that are going to, just as we have different ways of thinking, we learn different people learn differently. And we learned also differently through life. When you're in college, when you're when you're still studying like that, maybe videos is going to be much better. But as you grow that and you start working and become more, start doing a job, probably these videos are not the best, and your brain goes more on the article thing, as you said, that you skim quickly, you know what you're looking for, you copy paste, and that's it. So I think it's very valid, but maybe not for.
No, I see your point now. I mean, I understand. I mean, it makes sense. Maybe if you have zero knowledge about the topic, you need somebody to explain it to you more slowly, to get you into the context and really structure it. Not like scroll down to the end and copy the final solution, but rather go structure. So yeah. Okay, so Code Academies, YouTubes. One thing I hate are either Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or 10-second pills on a solution, because again, I cannot copy and paste the code. I mean, it's fun to see okay, here guys, here's 2 lines to create this CSS grid that works responsively and it's super nice. It's just 2 lines, but then I need to either write them by hand or I cannot copy them. So I like articles.
I think that, for example, these kind of instant reels, these small bites of information, they're interesting when they give you fun facts. They give you a little bit of things. But I love when they tell you a little bit quickly, this is this, and then they give you a link to a better article. So maybe they summarize what you could learn in the article. Hey, have you ever worked with Flex? So imagine you have this and you can do it like this. It gives you in 30 seconds, 1 minute at most, all the quick things that you can do with Flex. And then it says, go read the article. And I think that for one, it's useful to understand that this exists. For two, it's interesting if you want to go deep.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we should not get used to only get information that is quick, small bites, because then we lose our ability to focus. But I think that they're quite useful, especially if you link them to more.
Yes, it's a compromise. I get it. Yes, if you have your own big lengthy article and then you want to share a snippet to drive your audience there, absolutely, just do it, of course. But I need that link. I need to be able to click there and copy it and play with it, rather than just watching you be an Instagrammer. What else? Anything you can do internally in your company to keep up to date?
Well, internally, it is something, knowledge sharing sessions, which you have different people investigating different topics. That's the power of having a team made by different people, that each one might have an interest, and they can just be working different stuff and then get together in knowledge sessions and share this knowledge with the rest of the people. And this is, you don't have to do all the work yourself to keep up to date. It's better if you use the advantages on working in a team. And we talked about this on episode 32. So this is something that's knowledge sharing sessions, internal knowledge sharing sessions. And of course, podcasts. It's also another way to keep up to date. There's a lot of very nice podcasts I'm following right now. I don't remember the name. I have it in Spotify, the CSS podcast, where they tell you a little bit about history, about things that they're working, and it's quite interesting. And it's something that you can hear while you're walking. I do like them to be shortish, 30 minutes, hours. But that is also a good way to keep up to date. You're just listening, you get information. You don't have to memorize everything. But as I said, different people learn different ways. And if listening is yours, podcasts are a fantastic way to go.
Last on our list, side projects, right? A way to keep up to date. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you yourself have a specific side project that you usually try out with different technologies, right?
I don't know. Do I?
Or
No, but maybe. No, yeah, sure. But when I
like,
think you said at the beginning, if you can play with the stuff, like you say, oh, there's a new React version. Let me just try it out. You open a GitHub repo, you try it out, you deploy it, and then you see, oh, and now at least I know a little bit what it is. I can have an opinion. Surely I haven't done a big fat
yes,
production project, but at least you know how it looks like.
I have my eternal project that I've never finished. I don't know if
Come
I ever
on.
will finish it. The Magic the Gathering card thingy that I want to do, and I've done it in jQuery. I've done it in Angular. I've done it in Svelte. I've done it in regular vanilla
Stop it. But
JavaScript.
then finish one version because the time
Yeah,
before you finish, there's a new framework. So
yeah. There's the thing is that I've done it doesn't mean that I finished it. I've tried things out and then I begin again and I see the different ways of doing it. And it is the way that I've been learning a few of these different frameworks. So side projects, we talked about them in episode 8, if I'm not mistaken. You can see, go and listen to that episode. They're a fantastic way also of learning because it's learning by doing. But in the end, the important thing is no matter what you use, whether you're a book guy, an article guy, a conference guy, podcast, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, the important thing is that keeping up to date, especially in an industry like ours that is constantly moving forward, it is very important. Even if whether you're trying to get a new job or a job, your first job, or you're trying to improve the job that you're in, to improve the work that you're doing, it is very important to keep up to date. The effort is always worth the time because in the end, things usually do get better.
yeah, and also a very important thing to do is to subscribe to this podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's very important. If you got to do one thing today, do that for us.
Yes, that would be one of the things to do. So I think we have all the time that we've listed all the time. And thank you very much, Ricardo, again for another fantastic episode. And well, we will be seeing you next time. Have a great day and a great coffee break.